Good evening and welcome to another exciting episode of What Do You Hunt? Hopefully it's as exciting as last episode without as much alcohol because, wow. We're just going to leave that one right there. But I do want to thank my amazing guests who got me a little toasted. Carlito Classico, John's Comics with Kids, and our wonderful sport who was able to pitch in at the last minute, Old Wolf 65. Thank you, gentlemen, all for being on the show last week and for helping me find new limits in alcoholism. That said, this week is probably going to be no different. From Wednesday nights, the greatest comic show ever, we've got Bear Island Comics, White Whale Comics, and Comics Misexplained.
For a second, I thought this was Wednesday, and I was like, boy, John, you look different.
I filled out a little, especially up top.
Did you invite Andy so he can laugh?
No, Andy was on the first episode, but he should show up.
Okay.
I was looking back at it, and I'm like, okay, I've had Andy and I've had John. I'm like, I've got to get the rest of the Wednesday crew on.
So we're the afterthoughts, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, that's fair.
At least that's what your mom's told me.
Oh.
Well, this is the 10th episode, so.
11th.
11th, yeah. What are you drinking, Jimmy?
Red Stripe.
Okay, right on. I got Brewdog Pulp Patriot Black Currants Milkshake IPA. It's 9.5%.
Fucking hipster.
Right? I mean, I remember when the can just said fucking beer on it.
Yeah. American beer.
Yeah. And
American
now
beer.
it's like this, Starbucks creation of something that doesn't vaguely resemble beer.
Yeah, just blasphemy of beer.
But it's always an IPA.
Strangely enough, right? Yeah.
Very hoity-toity. But we do have Slab Dragon. So I guess John's on another show.
Yeah, John does he's doing his X-Men omnibus show.
He has like 20 shows this week.
Oh, please, we already read that whole thing, right? Bill, how you doing, sir? Bill's going to be on in a couple of weeks. Kavi, Comic Books and Lights.
Kavi?
John, TJ says, I couldn't pass up a chance to see these three on a good show for a change.
Wow.
Couldn't agree.
Don't count your chickens there, buddy.
Yeah.
We can ruin this.
There's a reason why the Wednesday show is bad, and 3 of the reasons are here tonight.
That's right.
Maybe this week it'll be different though, because we're not having our usual Tuesday night Zoom session where we plan out the show meticulously for Wednesday.
Yeah, it's not going to be scripted this week.
Scripted, Jimmy. I didn't know if you knew that, but we usually
tomorrow is
Tuesday nights anyway.
Good show, right?
So I guess we're just gonna have to wing it tomorrow, guys.
It's going to be the first one where it's completely off the cuff.
Yeah. It's no script rewrites this time.
And oddly, no one in the chat believes you. Knights of Khonshu, thank you for coming along. JP's Budget Collecting, Fuchsia, hello. And thank you for the gracious request for the thumbs up. Thunderhouse Design.
Do what Fuchsia says. She's nice.
A lot of people in the chat already.
It's because we're here, dude.
Yeah.
Why we bring the heat.
Wrong show.
So much heat.
Right. And Jay Hood. Well, I don't know if you guys got the script on the show, but we'll just dive into some questions anyway.
Yeah, did you get my notes on the script?
I did, but I ran out of toilet paper early, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I did have to punch it up a bit, but yeah. I think we're good.
Okay.
So one of the first questions I want to ask all three of you is, when you guys approach collecting, what is your typical go-to? Are you collecting runs? Are you just new book readers? Are you looking for, do you go after like just keys? How do you kind of approach your collecting habits? We'll start with Jason.
Okay. It's mostly just I aim on kind of just, I don't know, I guess less popular stuff. I don't know. I guess it actually shouldn't even say that. Just maybe independent stuff, or just kind of oddball stuff. For instance, I guess like as an example, this year I have this little game called Brouhaha. It's done by a cartoonist called Wayno, who's actually a buddy of mine. There's a handful of these are put out. I first became aware of these from there's this guy who's in charge of like the Library of Congress like comics section. Like he puts like comics into the Library of Congress. And I was watching one of his videos, and he has like his own personal collection at home, and he has like a handful, or I think one or two of these like Scary Harry toys, like games, and it's like a little board game in here, and they're all different, and they're made by a certain creator that Scary Harry picked out. I think there's like 6 or 7 of them to collect, but this one was by Wayno, who I knew from my old workplace at Get Hip Recordings, which was like a garage and psychedelic record label. And he's like a good friend of mine. My old boss, Greg, who's the guitar player for the Cynics, who were responsible for like the garage rock revival of the 80s, which continued on into like the grunge movement of the 90s. But so I was shocked to see that Wayno did this one. I was like, oh, dude, like that's awesome that you made this. I want to get him to sign this, even though it's like a buddy of mine. And then apparently to play this game, you need like a certain record that you have to like play on repeat. Like gets kind of annoying. I think you have to dance as well as it plays and drink at the same time. So pretty fun that this exists. And I was going to give this actually to, after I get it signed by Wayno, to that guy who's in charge. Wish I could remember his name. I think he is in charge of like, was it PDX, the con, like small publishing con.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. I think it might be PDX, but
yeah. I mean, there's like a I forget what there's another one too. It's like the independent comic publishers or something.
Yeah, something like that. But the guys from Cartoonist Kayfabe are from here, from Pittsburgh, and they are within like reach where I could probably just like, hey, like I want to give this to you, like your buddy. Oh, his name is something Bernard. I just popped in my head.
Saint.
No, not Saint Bernard. No, he's a cool dog though. But yeah, so then also I guess Cartoonist Kayfabe related and music related. There's a punk band from here from the 80s called Battered Citizen, and they're from Mind Cure Records, and the owner from Mind Cure, Michael, is a homie of mine. But the reason this was of interest of me, not just because it's like a local like punk mag thing, but it's like a fold-out poster, and the inside was done by Ed Piskor.
Right on.
So it's quite huge. But this guy I know as well, Oyo. He's plays in a band called Killer Sheep here in Pittsburgh. They're kind of like the Bad Brains, and actually was going to play for them as well. And I just was doing too much at the time, and I backed out, but recommended a good bass player for them, and he's the current bass player when they had a revolving door of players back then. So pretty cool to help them out.
Oh no,
right.
Who's the drummer?
But this is pretty gnarly. I always want to ask Ed Piskor. I know he's he's behind Hip Hop Family Tree, and I know he's a big punk guy as well. So I just want to know how he knew the guys from Mind Cure and Battered Citizen. I'm sure from just going to shows and stuff from growing up in Pittsburgh. But I wish I didn't grow up here, so I didn't have that chance. But that's just two things. I have stuff everywhere. I don't know, man. I guess I also collect like Warren Magazine era Vampirellas, mostly by Enric. So I try to find like the ones that Enric has done, which is a good handful. I want to say maybe like somewhere between like 20.
So the cover or the interior art or both?
Just covers, yeah, covers. By Enric, yeah. And trying to see what else I hear. I have some other ones too, but yeah, I have a good bit of them here.
I've been working on the Vampirella run, but it's like mostly I go after just like the covers that I like that are in the best shape I can find, and then like eventually I'll fill them in later.
Yeah,
but finding them in solid shape is also difficult. Anything like above a 7 is just rough.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of stuff too.
Unless you're TJ.
Well, true, but I think he finds file copies or something like that.
He's got a portal to the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll collect oddball things too. Like for instance, like a more modern book was Black Magic, but they put out like a fun retro, like kind of magazine style version of it.
It's a cool book.
So that was pretty neat because I'd never seen that anywhere else. And then kind of magazine size, Fugatoid. It's like early Kevin Eastman stuff before Ninja Turtles.
Pre Turtles.
Then I always get like goofy, funny stuff like Black Belt Hamsters. It's the first knockoff of Ninja Turtles.
Black Belt Hamsters, or
Yeah.
Adolescent rather. Yeah.
Oh, it's super silly. But then I'll collect like things too, like from like the Comics Journal, Understanding Scott McCloud.
Scott McCloud is the man.
Absolutely. And I never got a chance to read the interview in here. And then this one too by Evan Dorkin, who's a fun cartoonist that I follow on Instagram. And of course, Understanding Comics is a great book, although I do have some differing theories that Scott McCloud attests to.
So a bit of an eclectic approach.
Yeah, man. There's stuff everywhere, and I guess there's more interesting stuff everywhere. I kind of have things around me, but I don't want to hog all the time. But there's also this huge thing. It's from R to Zap by Harvey Kurtzman. It's kind of like his big definition of comics and what he thinks is important. Cool. Yeah, it's pretty hard to find too, but things like that, and you'll be surprised.
To be honest with you, Jason, at the start of this, I was really wondering where the hell you were going with the story.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
But I'm glad that you brought it back to something we all actually, understood.
Yeah.
Funny story about milk and cheese.
They're both made from cows.
It's a dad joke.
That's what they say, but I'm waiting on proof. No, about specifically the comic Milk and Cheese #1. Someone, I forget who was selling it, had it up for auction in one of the YouTube auctions a while back, and I was bidding against Thoro for it.
Oh.
And he ended up winning it, but then he got it graded and then sold it on his auction, and I got it from him.
Oh wow. That's kind of a bummer, but at least I guess maybe it was graded. I don't collect too much graded stuff. For me, it's just kind of about the material that it is. I guess to attest to that, like I collect some old repressings of like Mad Magazine, mostly the earlier issues. My favorite is probably Mad Magazine. I think number 10 or 11. I had this one like Harvey Kurtzman story that really dealt with. It's called the fourth dimension or third dimension story. I forget what it was called, but it played around with blue and reds in the beginning, so you can put on 3D glasses and see that. But then he talks about some panel layout, and he pokes his head through like the panels where you just see his backside, and on like the next page you see like his head poking through another panel. But as the story continues on as well, and some of it breaks down where the panel is breaking and bending and falling off, and it was really creative. It's really neat.
That early meta comic stuff is so cool.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to our next point. Kids, don't do shrooms and make comics.
No.
Or do, but just tell everybody.
I was saying no. Do the opposite of what Jamie recommends, because you have small groups like this. Like I forgot what the hell this group is called. This collective of comic makers, but they're like a team, and everyone has their own little mini story they have in here, and it's all screen printed stuff. And I think it's called Wipeout. Yeah, the Providence Sunday Wipeout, and this is just one of them they have. But then they have like interesting like things like this. Like there's like a mini comic in here that really
is that like
adds
Providence,
up to another
Rhode
level.
Island?
I think they might be. I'm not sure. I can't remember what state.
That feels like it might be a RISD thing.
I think you're right. Yeah, it is, because this one says Rhode Island.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's my home.
That's your own, dude. You gotta look up the Providence dudes. I bought all their Wipeout series. There's like that they had available. There's like 3 or 4 of them I bought, and they're mostly all sold out. But they're really cool, like interesting collectives. There's even like another mini comic in here that folds out, like ridiculous stuff that comics has yet to even do. As like I stopped buying Marvel and DC stuff for the most part because it just like bores me. I don't know. It's just like action figures, which is fun, and you can put a good, interesting story to those characters and do different spins on it. But you don't see like shit like this, even though they have the money to do things like that. Yeah. It's just I
mean, Rhode Island School of Design, for those of you who are not in the circle of people who would know what art schools are specifically, but it's very highly renowned art school, and so because of that, Providence has this huge underground art scene, which is I know the case in a lot of cities that have big art schools. Like I know Kansas City has a big underground comic art scene too. So that is definitely something that I have disconnected from living in Orlando, but for sure, like there's a lot of inspiration and a lot of collective artwork being made in cities like those.
So you turned your back on the alternate scene to go live near the mouse, right?
Yeah, I what I call myself is a post hipster, where I'm so hipster that I've circled back around.
Yeah.
That's good.
But pretty soon that'll be cool again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll won't know what to do with myself.
And like I like at first I'd have like an appreciation of like the golden age, like old stuff first, like where comics come from, and then even just besides like Marvel and DC, there's old stuff that came out that is hard to find, and of course that even just Marvel and DC stuff is hard to find. But I had to go and get this like Art at a Time book, which is like rare comics from 1900s through 1969. And it's just really, really nice hardcover collection of just really interesting random stuff. I think one of my favorites in here, I forget what it is, but it's what it's called. But it's just like this chubby kid who has this belt of lollipops that gives him different powers, and everyone thinks he's just like a useless kid, and he just kind of puts it around. And whenever the situation calls for it, he just pulls a certain lollipop, and then he gets a different power. But interesting stuff, man.
To answer Thunderhouse Design, yes, David Mazzucchelli, I don't know if he still is, but was a professor there, and I did take.
That's awesome.
I took 2 classes from him.
Oh wow! What did those classes involve?
One of them was just like a standard. I mean, they were both comic book classes, but one of them was an independent study. So it was me and 2 other students who met with. So basically, the first class was just a comic book class, a general making comics class, and then he offered to certain students who were pursuing that kind of direction a second class that was an independent study. So we would meet and we just did our own things, and he would critique them and we'd discuss them, whatever.
I know Alex familiar with this, but Chris Ware, I'm a big fan of Chris Ware.
Oh yeah, Building Stories. I got mine right down there too.
It's
incredible.
So huge. If you're unfamiliar with this, that those that aren't familiar with this, it's like a big box. You can open almost like a board game, But in here, there's like a bunch of little different comics and a board, and you can change them around and read the story in different ways. But it all is cohesive and it makes sense.
Yeah,
it's really cool. And all that's just stuff that's just littered around your chair.
I had to bring it in. I thought in the last like half hour before the show started, I was like, what do I even collect? I was like, I collect a lot of stuff. And it's like, what is the most important things that I wanted to share with everyone that I still would like to collect? There's vinyl records, some random toys, and some really weird comics, and cassettes. So just kind of different mediums, I guess. But yeah, this one is also another big Chris Ware art collection, and as far as art books go too, I got some in here as well that I'm running out of room to put places. I guess as far as cassettes, I got like black metal cassettes that you can only released on cassette form.
On cassette, yeah.
And this one I ever opened, it's like wax sealed. There's like
a lot of like Dungeon Doom is cassette.
Nice.
I feel like that's a big scene in the cassette community.
Yeah, the Dungeon.
Quite a few. Yeah, quite a few.
It's got wax seal on it.
Yeah, there's like a Wolves in the Throne Room, like rare demo thing.
Oh hell yeah!
This one's really cool. This was a new one that got put out, but it looks like it's a re-release of an old demo tape, but they really went all the way and made it look like a replica of the original demo.
That's cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right
nice
on.
touch. Nice touch.
Wolves in the Throne Room might have the hardest to read logo in the industry.
Yeah, there's at home.
Because it looks like squiggly lines.
I mean, a lot of them look like squiggly lines, but that one's got like, it's especially next level.
No, I kid you not. That looks like some kind of like graphic that my dad would do on like a van back in the 70s.
Nice. I would say like tree branches, like in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my old bands, I won't divulge the band name, but like our logo that I got commissioned was put in a book of the world's most extreme band like symbols.
Yeah.
And that book, I can't even afford to buy it. It's up there and it's hard to find. But that was really cool to be a part of that.
All right, so we're going to switch over to Alec. So, should you give us your take on on what you hunt around for.
So if you had asked me this question a year ago, it would be a much different answer. I think, and I would guess this past year has changed a lot for a lot of people in their personal and professional lives and whatever. But, besides the fact that cons don't really exist, I mean, they're starting to come back a little bit, and, for a while, shops
Long hibernation period.
Yeah, shops were having strange hours, and obviously with the more recent, absolute boom of prices of everything in the world. And I talked a little bit about this on some of my other shows, is that I've become a little disillusioned with the hobby, where even Wednesdays used to be an exciting habit every week, where you're like, yeah, I get to go get my new books. It's cool. I get to see what came out, maybe find something cool to read. Now it's become like an anxiety trigger, because it's like, well, I'm not going to be able to get anything because the speculators are just going to come in and swoop everything off the shelves. So it's turned from the high point of my week to kind of like a stressor of the week. And that bummed me out, because I've been collecting comics on a Wednesday for 30 years now.
Yeah.
So I was, interested to come on tonight, because I don't really have an answer to that anymore. I'm still kind of in this flux period of not knowing where to go with what I'm going to hunt in the, especially the near future, never mind moving forward.
Yeah.
Because,
is it the stories that you enjoy? I mean, out of the hobby more than anything? Is it the artwork? Is it the combination? Is it the nostalgia? I mean, what in the past, besides the Wednesday, right? What really intrigued you or interested you in comics?
I mean, I would say I was initially drawn to comics because of the artwork. But I have been a reader my whole life too.
Yeah.
So I certainly love the stories and I love reading books, but the artwork is what is always bringing me back. And obviously, combine those two things together is what you're really looking for. But
you get the visual aspect and the storytelling from it, right?
Right. But I've always also been a collector. I can remember, even before I had long boxes and bags and boards, I was still trying to, I had my little stack of comics that I kept real as neat as I could. And so I certainly am prone to cover buys. I'm prone to key books, all the same stuff we all are. And I used to be a big run collector. I would, I had a long box and a half of Batmans that were just from Nightfall forward, roughly. But then a couple of years ago, I was just like, this isn't really what I want my collection to be. It doesn't, I'm never going to get Batman 1 through it, whatever it's up to now, so I guess you can pick a certain point and say, this is where my run's going to start. But right now, the only run I have left in my collection is Strangers in Paradise. Everything else.
Say again.
The only run I still have in my collection is Strangers in Paradise. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just random books that I like, or I have a connection with, or key books, or, whatever.
And that's what all 4 series is?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry. The Strangers in Paradise, was that all 4 series?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Or volumes, I should say.
Yeah.
You have all the Love and Rockets as well?
No, I would love to get all the Love and Rockets, but the first that black and white indie one is, outside of my reach.
Yeah, I was had one on eBay Watch for a minute, and I was tempted. It was a raw one. I want to say it was pretty decent for its rarity.
Yeah, for books like that, I'm always I would love to just have a copy regardless. Mm-hmm. But raw copies of that and books of that era are so easily faked That's why I would kind of lean more towards a graded one in that case, because it's kind of feels more verified. Like, who knows what the CGC or CBS or CCS or whatever doing to actually verify their authenticity. But
I never thought about scamming some black and white comics. That's interesting.
So I know for a while, like fake copies of Ninja Turtles 1 were like all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
refresh my memory. Love and Rockets. What's the significance of that specific book? The number one.
It's by the Hernandez brothers, and they're just huge influential indie artists in the comic scene. I actually went to they had an exhibit at Brown University with a bunch of their artwork.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Up on the wall.
That's really cool, especially Brown.
And it came out in what, 82?
Something like that. Yeah. So definitely early 80s, I recall.
And obviously there's a huge underground comic scene in the 70s, but around the early 80s when comic shops started opening up, exclusively comic shops, they were on that forefront along with Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, where they were kind of the big push of the indie books that kind of said we can be legitimate too.
Yeah, I think what made Love and Rockets special too at the time, and even now, I guess, but at the time they encapsulated the 80s punk scene as it was happening. And so you had, they had a love for Germs and Black Flag and stuff like that, and they went to those shows, and that's where he met his wife. It's so cool. So I don't know, that's really neat to see that pictured in comics too. I love the combination and consolidation of different forms and ideas like that. That's really neat, and I'd like to see more things of music and comics combined. I guess there's this one label, or not label, but publisher called Waxworks, and they have I think 2 or 3 comics they put out, but there's 2 or 3 issues of each one, but they all come with a 7-inch vinyl record as well as the comic, and it's a fun little concept, and I think it's really neat to give your comic a soundtrack as you read it, even though I think it's kind of distracting, but it's fine. It's neat. I think they're all instrumental too. I don't think they have lyrics and stuff to it, so it just kind of sets an ambient mood to it. Pretty neat stuff.
Those are the new ones that are being released, or we're talking?
That is a new comic that came out in the past 2 or 3 years. There's the Waxworks Volume 1, 2, and 3. I think they're more horror kind of EC Crypt Tales for the Crypt kind of style, but the character looks like a Tales from the Crypt, but David Lynch, and they have one called Poser, which is a band murderer kind of guy, and but it's pretty cool. But the vinyl records they got a guy from Nuclear Holocaust or Toxic Holocaust. I'm trying to remember, or Municipal Waste, one of those thrash bands, but he does other stuff as well. He did stuff for my old label, Get It Recordings. He did a split between Davey Allen, the surf rock guitar legend from the 60s. He did a split with him, and I'm trying to think what else he's done, but he specializes. He's a really good studio kind of musician. He's very diversive, and it's really neat to see him branch into comics.
Yeah, I was at C2E2 3 years ago at the Diamond Summit, and during the summit they have a room that's all just publishers pushing new titles and stuff like that, and they're giving away free stuff. And there was one that caught my eye, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but what stuck with me is that it was like a comic, and it would come with music, and it was set to some bebop jazz soundtrack behind it. And it was just, the idea of it seemed to me very, very intriguing, right? To be able to you got a soundtrack going on as you're reading the book, So what you were saying just reminded me of that. So I gotta figure out what that was, because I was excited to get it, and I don't know if it ever came out or if it just
there's
not enough.
There's a new one that's by Dave Chisholm. It's spelled Chisolm. He's known for writing Canopus, Ellen Scout comics, but his new one, I guess, is more like a documentary on Donald Byrd, the jazz musician, and it has I think a soundtrack with it as well. And he's a jazz musician himself.
Yeah,
he's really good at the trumpet. And he has a prior comic called, I think, Instrumental, and his artwork is just kind of mind blowing. He's a master when it comes to how the eye moves along the page and following it and kind of just panel breaking things. It's not your usual layout. It's just kind of double splash pages all the time. Yes, so that's a new one out. I think it's called Chasing the Bird. So Chasing the Bird, check it out. Dave Chisholm.
Very cool. So back to what Alec was saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, just to kind of sum up, and obviously we'll probably talk more about this as we go along, but I am on like a full buying freeze right now. If I can get out to a comic shop and look through some dollar bins and find something that looks cool, I'm not going to like say no to buying it. But as far as like actually going out and looking for specific things, I'm just on a full hold right now. And for those of you who missed Comic-Cories last night, Alex, the comic order, brought up a perfect example of something that like I've been kind of trying to illustrate a little bit on the greatest comic book show ever, which was a 9.8 copy of that first appearance of White Vision is selling for as much as a 9.2 copy of the actual first appearance of Vision.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Which, like, something is broken when that's the case. And so, like, the things that I want that used to be achievable just aren't anymore. And I'm sure a lot of people are in that same boat. Like I wanted a Crow 1 for the longest time. Well, I can go to hell with that because like it's quadrupled in price suddenly.
I wanted first Mephisto for the longest time. I think some sort of 3 or 6, but yeah.
Good luck with that.
No way.
That will come back down because clearly he's not going to show up on WandaVision at this point.
I hope so. That'd be great. But even before the WandaVision hype, like it was just still ridiculous out of mind.
It was always the WandaVision hype, though. That's the thing. Is like that WandaVision hype about Mephisto. Ever since they released the show, has been about Mephisto. As soon as somebody said Christian Bale's in talks with Marvel, it was like Mephisto. He's got to do Mephisto, and it's like no, nobody's got to do Mephisto.
I think people were thinking Dario Auger for him, the Minotaur business guy. He's like as branching psycho kind of thing.
I heard that for like a minute.
That'd have been cool.
Like the big ones were always Mephisto, and then I can't remember what the other one was, but I think Gore the God Butcher came totally out of left field. Like nobody expected that.
Right.
Yeah. There's been like 5 different characters on WandaVision who are supposed to be Mephisto, and they just haven't.
I think that hype came out too because I don't know if it's faked or not, but there was like a Funko Pop thing released for WandaVision, like a promo, as advertisements coming up, and one of the figures was Mephisto, and it could have been photoshopped in, or just made by itself, but that really fueled the flames.
But even stuff like, and I've said this specific information before, like Giant Size X-Men 1, which there's no like specific new hype about any of the characters that appear in that. Like we've always known they're huge characters, but my copy, which is a 6.5 that I bought 2.5 years ago, roughly, you can't get a 1.0 for that cost anymore.
Yep. And if you look at the historic trend lines of that book, it shows a solid, just line. Right? Solid incline, but which is attributed to, really just inflation.
Inflation,
right?
yeah. Sure.
That's what that is. And yeah, to your point, it's always been a key book. It's always been the big book, right? But the value proposition of comics has never been what it is now. And the ideology that, yes, right now, there's no X-Men in movies. That's a complete fabrication, right? There's been, 7, 8 X-Men films, right? Yeah. Maybe you didn't like them. Maybe they weren't part of the MCU as a whole. But the simple fact that because there's talk about them joining a group of movies and becoming this big interconnected, there's not even a rumor of that, right? They're going to make an X-Men movie. It doesn't mean that it has to be in the same universe as Marvel, right? And that's already getting pretty damn crowded.
But at the same time, like I've always been a proponent of saying, like, why is it that just because something appears on a TV screen automatically makes it go up in value? Like,
because it's now introduced to a group of people who were not aware of it before.
Yeah, but it's like who else is going to go out and buy those? Like the people who go out and buy them are people that collected already. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's my argument too. Is that the people? I think there's this panic of, more people are going to be aware of it, so I need to get my hands on it. But I don't know if that's the case. Like comic collectors are still the comic collectors.
Exactly.
And going back to the White Vision thing, like I have 2 copies. I had 3 at one point because it's just an awesome homage cover. So like, why wouldn't people want it if you're a fan of like the Marvel, you're a fan of Buscema and that era of Marvel comics? Like, it's just a cool book to have. But all of a sudden, because he appears in a PS in an episode of a TV show, it goes up to $1,500 for a 9.8, like whatever the hell it's at. It's just
like I just wanted first Mephisto because I think the devil's cool for no reason. like
no reason.
Stan Julian's creation of his depiction of the devil. So I had to get like a 9.2 copy. But like, yeah, man, it's fun stuff. It is ridiculous though that things go up just because they're on a TV or a movie. And I definitely feel how Alec is feeling too, and that's kind of why I stopped buying most modern things as well, and stopped making videos. I really got disheartened by the community where it's like it's all about speculation and it's buying. It's all about slab stuff. Even I just got a handful of fun things that I like and want to keep treasured in a plastic case, and I'll still buy like a raw version and read it, but like it's just those ones I want to protect. But like it's just I really stopped making videos and things like that because I got disheartened by what's happening in the community.
It's turned into day trading.
Yeah. I think the perfect example is Daredevil. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I think the perfect example is Daredevil, and those books went up because he's going to have like a bit part in an animated show involving Spider-Man or something. Like he already had his own series, and it was amazing, you guys.
Yeah, right.
Like 3 seasons of a great run. Yeah.
Like, who are these new people that are going to be coming in off the street wanting to buy Daredevil first appearances?
Right. So I'm going to
jack up comics prices.
I really want to get to your answer to this question, Adam. But so let me throw this just piece of info there. So I've been doing a series called Slab City that's more about investment end of comics, right? Where it's about how the books themselves become assets in a market where it's soft on the stocks, right? The last year has told us a lot of things. Primarily, it has told us that anything can happen and that you can't be guaranteed, on anything. So people will try to put their money in things that are tangible, right? Because the last 10 plus years has been about superheroes in most of the mainstream media, right? Be it TV or movies. That's where people's attention is now being drawn to because they realize what we've known all along, right? Comics that are old don't get better with age, right? They just get more expensive and harder to find. So those values come up. The speculation game, to your point, Jason, I couldn't agree with more, which is why I won't even touch the conversation of speculation, because do I find that it's necessary for us to put our money into something that's a flash in the pan? Absolutely not. Because history has told us repeatedly, those values sink fast, right? Put your money into that Avengers 57 if you're going to do that. Don't go after the hype. Don't buy into it. That book was made in the 80s. It was produced the hell out of, right? And I can guarantee you there's a lot more of those out there in the dollar bin than you're going to find of an Avengers 57 any day of the week.
Yeah, for sure.
No, but
I'm
sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
No, I was keep thinking of like where the collector game is going to have, like what the progression of the collector game for those that try to flip things or invest in them like stocks. I'm a sucker for like just version covers, and I buy a lot of like Unknown Comics and Scorpion Comics covers that I like the art of, even though it might be a bullshit story that I don't give a shit about. But
everybody goes after a cover by every now and again, right? Because the art's spectacular. It's something I want to look at, right? The story might be complete, hot garbage water on the inside.
Sure. And it's funny.
I really like that cover.
It's funny because I justify like cover buys, but at the same time, it's like I don't buy like keys and stuff because like it's just a crap story that I don't even care about. So why would I buy the key for it? I don't know. It's just I have a weird like standard like that. But
I respect that. I mean, that everybody should collect their own way, right?
Yeah,
they really
absolutely.
should. And I don't fault the people who are spending $1,500 for the first appearance of White Vision, right? If you have that kind of money to just throw around, great. Give it to me and I'll spend it on a really old Batman.
Yeah, but don't expect to get your money back. And I think that's the problem is that people think that this is going up so much. If I buy now, it can only keep going up.
Right.
But
to go back to my point of like where I think the progression is, I think there's going to be a lot more places like Unknown Comics, Scorpion Comics, KRS Comics, more like exclusive covers. There's going to be more of those companies popping up, I think, in the near future. There's going to be more like hype about, speculative characters. I think if these companies were smart and would think ahead of time, they'd see like maybe like, say, we just found out about White Vision being in the Wanda show. Hey, maybe you can do a run of White Vision covers, and people will buy them, just because they like the it's simple, like business-minded things that like can make money, but you don't see yet. But I think it's going to get flooded where it's like people are going to stop caring about those exclusive covers unless they're just cover buys most of the time, And
one can only hope.
I think people are going to get tired of buying like a lot of like keys and stuff too, man. I don't know. I think I see people, I guess maybe eventually doing their comic book history and buying things like from like Charles Burns and I mean, you see what's happening with like Mark Miller's like Jupiter's Legacies is going to be a TV show. Like, who would have thought that? You know what I mean? I think we're going to see a lot more of like independent things like that popping up. Like, what if there's like
been going on for years? I mean,
what if there's like a Love and Rockets TV show?
It's less known than anything else,
even though it's already crazy expensive.
Yeah, I mean, how many people knew like Whiteout was a comic book or Road to Perdition? It's it's people like Alec who are reading that stuff, do know it, right? But most of the mainstream media, they're like, oh, that's a great Tom Hanks movie, or that was an okay Kate Beckinsale movie, but. It's just the facts are there. It's just there's always been those, right, in that optioning and people going crazy over it, But we could go on and on about that, and it's really not the theme of the show. Let's get over here, Bear Island. Let's talk about what you like collecting, man.
Well, much like Alec, I'm kind of in the same boat with him. I'm in a bit of a freeze right now. I won't absolutely not spend if something pops up that I've been looking for. That's $150 or less graded. I'll pull the trigger on some things like that, but right now I'm not really spending money on comics. I got like 4 or 5 books on my pull list, and it's just stuff I'm reading. I only go every 3 weeks to the comic book stores. I'm just not excited for those books right now, and I sound like such a bummer, don't I?
I already brought us down, so go ahead.
A couple of the reasons that I'm not out there buying keys is what's happening right now with prices. I just don't want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And secondly, a lot of my enjoyment of this hobby revolves around conventions. And it's just sort of sucked the joy out of it for me, not having those to go to and meet up with people and like hunt for books with them and buy special books at a con in person is one of my favorite things to do. And original art has become, on a much smaller scale than our friend Comic Books NYC, has become sort of one of my favorite things to do in this hobby. And that's just not really available to me right now. And I'm also still waiting for a commission from a year and a half ago. So that's been a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
it's easy to sit here and say with prices so crazy right now, I need a new dishwasher. Like, I'm just going to spend it on that. And I'm not going to be out there trying to impress anyone with my new book.
It's funny because obviously we were in Baltimore together a couple of years ago with a bunch of guys and along with Comic Head 84 and a bunch of great guys, Andy, John, all the Comic Core guys, and obviously at the time it was happening, it was a great time and I treasured it and whatever, but like I never realized obviously how could we like how important that was, because now like since then cons have just been gone, and to like have that experience is kind of bittersweet in a way because we were able to have it, but like who knows when that's going to happen again.
Yeah, having a con to look forward to, it just gets me so jazzed for comics. It really does. Like, and without it, it's just kind of like, okay, well, someday they'll be back, but right now I'm stuck in my house, and I will say that there's a particular type of comic that I almost hesitate to bring it up because you were talking about it a few weeks ago and prices have gone up on these even since then. But anything Batman the animated series right now,
nice.
I will buy that if it's reasonable.
Yeah, I've been on that bandwagon for a while.
On that stuff right now for my teenage years, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I bought a whole set a while ago at an auction on 84's channel. Everything obviously except for the 12, but I already had 2 copies of that, so like that was just kind of gravy, and I got like the dollar comics to read it. But yeah, no, it's a good read. It really is.
Like the upcoming ones, like I want to see. I guess there's a new series coming out that's based on the animated series, and I want to see like characters like Red Hood, Dunn, and stuff like that we haven't seen yet. Like their rendition of that, or newer characters, that haven't.
Yeah, bringing newer characters into that noir cool style.
I think it'll suck to be like, oh, that's his first appearance. Buy it. That that's going to happen.
Well, yeah, but you just ignore that noise. I mean, if it's not within your realm, just ignore it.
A few people in the chat are kind of like making jokes about how they came here to be uplifted. I want to make one thing clear: is that
I will never uplift you. All right, don't.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you should know better if I'm on a show. I am the anti-joy equation. There's a reason I was nicknamed that. But I would not put this much effort and emotion into something that I didn't love as much as I love comics. Yep. The reason I'm so hard on it is because I want it to be better. Like if it were something I cared less about, I would just forget about it and sweep it under the rug and not worry about it. But because it's comic books, like I feel the need to get on these shows and complain about it and say what's wrong with it, because if we don't like look at the monster in the eye and tell it to go screw itself, like we're never going to recover from it.
Yeah. I completely echo that sentiment. I understand exactly what you mean. My wife listened to me for years just berate local comic shops, everywhere we'd go, because they take no effort in actually having a business, right? It's and I know that there's people in the community that they love that dark, dingy, musty paper smell, comic shop. It's like that's great, but it's like it's dark and it's dingy. I can't tell, the quality of what I'm getting. You can't price anything. I don't want people, I don't want to walk up with a stack and have somebody go look at eBay because they're too lazy to price and just sitting there watching television the whole time. That kind of thing bothers me. Like not having, it's dirty. Things are stacked up. You got shit on top of your, of your back issues. It's like, have some self-respect, at least. But she would listen to me go on. And it was like I was to the point where it's like I went and I worked with my local comic shop and I helped him build a better shop, helped him redesign it and do other things. Like I got out there in the community and actually did something. And that is like a shining star in the area, and one of the only shops actually left in the area, because of it, because people felt comfortable coming in there. It's clean. It's nice. They keep good stock. It's just, I mean, if you don't feel passionate about it and you don't make the effort, and you don't speak your mind about something, then you just, a statistic. You're just, somebody who's just grumpy. But, you guys, every one of you, your opinions are absolutely spot on about what's going on, right? And while it's beneficial to the industry as a whole and the values of the books that we may have, but it has priced a lot of things out of our ability to get. I mean, I can't look at a Fantastic Four #1 and not go, oh, because I didn't get it. Like,
a house
sweet spot. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's, it's either a house or it's a nice car. And to be able to do that, it's no longer, possible right now. But I'm a long-term guy, right? I'm running the long game here, right? I know those prices are up on a high trend, right? And in a few years, they'll cascade down. I mean, the same thing has happened with almost everything. When it gets out of the spotlight, it'll cascade down back to a price that's, atypical for that, right? With inflation, and the fact that it does have, significant value. Some stuff doesn't hold value. Some stuff does.
Okay, answer me this. And I've only been back into collecting since 2017. Mm-hmm. I've not seen prices go down ever.
Of course. Well, you came in. You came in at the end of the housing bubble, buddy. It's like things are still going up right before it pops, but it eventually will pop. I mean, I've been collecting books since I was a kid, right? And I went through different collecting periods, and the last one started. This current one, I should say, really started in '94 when we had the Age of Apocalypse, right? That's when I got back into after I'd been collecting X-Men, way back during the Mutant Massacre, right? Got back into it then. And I have seen just all sorts of a roller coaster of everything you can imagine. And yeah, I mean, it's great that, we're seeing good values on things. We're seeing, those things. But again, like I feel for guys like Jay Hood who, had his heart set on getting a giant-sized X-Men #1 this year, and then just watching that thing go up 3-4 times what it was
Brutal.
6 months ago, right? It is disheartening. It's incredibly disheartening. And it'll come back down a little bit, I think, before a movie comes out. But I don't think it's going to come back down that much.
Right, compared to something like a White Vision, which who knows what's going to happen with that?
Yeah, 2 weeks later, that book's going to go into the crap. It's going to be like a Venom 26.
Yeah, but we keep saying like Giant Size X-Men 1 is an all-time key.
Yeah.
So it's never going to tank. You're never going to be able to get it for $100. But
there's that. There's Hulk 181. There's X-Men 94. Right. When it comes to the mutant books, those are the top 3, along with X-Men #1. Right. And probably 4. So we'll call those the top 5.
Yeah.
They're never going to go down in price. Right. They just didn't really trend up fast enough.
I think it's super cool to own those and have those. And I think it's awesome. If you naturally love those characters, if you want to own them, that's awesome. But for me, once they reach a certain price and stuff, like Fantastic Four #1, like you were saying, and they're in a car or whatever, I'm like, I have no interest of owning that, even if I had the money. You know what I mean? It's something like that where it's for me, it would feel kind of foolish spending that much, even though you would have just say you're a millionaire. I would be I don't even know if I really need that or want that. There's so many other cooler things I could buy that I could put my money better use. So I don't know. For me, it's even though it could be your favorite character comic in the world, I'd be I don't know, man. I think for me, I have the rarest Detective Comics that it is on the CGC list. Detective Comics, I think number 23 or something like that. I forget what it's missing pages and stuff, but it's the least registered CGC Detective Comics issue. It's the hardest to find Detective Comics issue, and I could probably flip that for who knows. I don't even know. But just having it, even though it's missing pages and a bit torn up, it's just cool enough. And that's cool. And I bought it for under $100, on eBay, on someone just put it up for just get out of here. And I was cool, yeah, I'll get that. But I don't know, man. It's I don't think I'd spend that much money on the one on mine up that is most expensive is either First Appearance Mephisto or I think it's Batman number 23. It's the one where it's earlier than that. The one where he's shooting the machine guns, because I also collect Batman holding guns. So I have a large stack of comics behind me of Batman holding guns, and that's 1 out of 2 or 3 that I'm missing from my collection. But that's the more expensive one. That's only a couple hundred too, maybe maybe $1,000 or $2 maybe. But
I dig that niche collecting, Man Cave, he collects atomic bomb covers, or ones where the expensive side of his collection is the ones where with the Hitler covers or Mussolini and Hirohito. Yeah, those are tough. And it's a small subset.
Yeah,
but that's very cool. I think
covers are a thing for me right now. It's there's that Strange Adventures with the snowmen on the front where they're shooting laser beams out of their eyes. I gotta have that book someday, but that's going up in price too. It's not a key or anything, but it's every time I check, it's a little more expensive. God damn it.
That's the funnest, I think, when it's not a key. It's something you like. I think that's more fun to search out than a gold stock. That's gonna stay constant. I don't know. For me, I see how it's an investment and how it's always going to hold its value. But at the same time, it's I don't think I could justify owning something like that. I don't know, man.
Well, it's funny because this kind of goes back to, in a weird way, what you're saying about cover buys. And I am certainly a sucker for cover buys as well.
Yeah.
But I am more apt to look at a picture of the cover on my phone than I am to pull out the comic and look at it.
Right.
And people who treat comics strictly as an investment, and I get it because they are valuable assets, right? You get an AF-15 that is just going to keep going up. It's but the idea of putting something like that in a safety deposit box and never looking at it.
Yeah.
It is just a stock. It's a bond. It is a tangible investment. It is not a comic book anymore.
I also want to say my record collection is really valuable. Most of the records I have are worth 2 to 3 times more than I purchased them for. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's these are all investments, but it's they're not worth money until you sell it. And I'm not going to sell them So it's like,
So they're worth
how is it
nothing.
really
Well,
an
that's
investment?
not exactly true, but I understand your point.
You know
But
what I mean? Yes, they do increase in value and they are worth more, but it's not until you sell it that it's worth something. Like I have a lot of Dogecoin, but it's not worth anything until I sell it. You know what I mean? It's just something that's here.
I got a buddy at work who's into that thing they have now where you can like buy sports moments that are digital and trade them. It's like a stock market. It's like a little video of like
Interesting.
somebody
I've
making
not
a
heard
shot
about this.
or like scoring a goal or something, and they trade them like they're cards or something or something of actual value.
Weird.
And he's like, yeah, I opened this pack and I got this one that's worth $2,000 or something like that. I'm like, you better sell it right now. Sell it now.
That's awesome.
Because people are going to catch on to this being.
It's on a computer. You can't hold it. So like, it just makes me wonder, like, do people see the end of like paper collectibles or something? And that's why we're all clamoring so hard for what's
That's an interesting
there?
topic, but I think there will always be a market for the physical medium. There will always be collectors that want something physical. Records is a huge thing about that. Like people are like, records are dead, for like decades, and now they're bought more than CDs.
I'm so upset.
Now
that
you
I got
have them
rid
in
of my
Target and stuff.
I wish I'd never gotten rid of my vinyl collection, but it was just like it was at the time, and it was just like I've had them forever, but it was like I was just like now because I have I've gotten back into it and everything. Like going back and trying to find first prints of metal albums is impossible, right? And they're so expensive. Sure. Yeah. I had every Metallica album, Queensryche album, Rush.
Damn.
You name it. It was like like now it's like there's no chance, right? I'm just like I'll get the repressings, the 180 gram repressings, which honestly sound better and they're nice and thicker. But yeah, just but having that original press, something about it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, the funny thing is too that like as a comic collector and as a comic fan, like, sometimes half the fun is looking for the book.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, like.
The show, right? I mean, it's about the
right. I would never do this, but part of me has always thought like, well, I should just sell everything and start over because like a lot of my fun is in the collecting aspect of it. It's not in the having aspect.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times I feel like my collection is a bit of a weight on me because it's like, oh, I have all this crap in my house, and if I have to move, like it's real a pain in the ass and like takes up so much space and yada yada yada. But I mean, I would never do that because I'm obsessed with it in a way. But it's like I'm never going to go get another giant size X-Men again. Not only because it's out of my budget at this point, but because like I have one now. I don't need to double up on that book.
Yeah, I know most people collecting comics were just walking around a con floor, like in Baltimore with you guys, or Kenny. I spent a lot of time walking with Comic Head 84, just looking for books. Like we didn't know what we were going to find. There were a few books we had in mind, but he was looking for something specific, so I helped him look. And it was just like, I don't know why that's so fun to me, but that's what it's about. Like at 2E2 walking around with Kavi for much longer than he wanted to, like, he was getting me an A-OK. That's just it for me. Like I gotta have that in order.
Yeah, sometimes seeing a book in the moment is part of the excitement. Like one of my favorite pickups from Baltimore was an Air Pirates Funnies #1, which like was a book that was kind of on my radar, but it wasn't like if I had to make a short list going into the con, like it wouldn't have been on there. Yeah, but I saw people that had it, and it was a good grade and it was a good price, and I picked it up, and I was like super excited about it.
That's one of the main reasons why I don't make a list. I know most collectors make a list. I don't make one because I like searching in the wild all the time and be like, oh, whoa, sweet. I think you'll have some stuff in the back of your mind that you keep in top priority. But a lot of times I just want to just go out in the wild, and you'll be surprised what you find.
There's no great story to tell when you're buying it right off eBay. It's just not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's why I stay away from eBay unless it's something like I need this to fill the hole. I've searched every store in my area. I've been on the auctions. I haven't seen it for the right price, and I don't want and it's not like something I can get raw and I can improve it or something like that. Like then I'll go to eBay for it.
Right? Like, on eBay,
I don't want to pay con
comic.
price, because sometimes they overinflate things. Like I picked up an Action 252 literally a week before the news dropped that they cast, somebody, for Supergirl in the Flash film. And I'm like, great timing. But it was a book I know that I got at a lower grade, but I knew I could make it better, and increase the value of it. So that was good for me. Like, and that makes me happy, right? Because I'm like, hey, I got this, good deal on it on the low that everybody was passing up. And I'm going to be able to, this book will double in price when I'm done with it. Like that makes me happy, as part of my hunt. And I feel what you're saying, Jason. I'm an opportunity buyer myself, right? I mean, I was in a store to meet a client, and what was in brand new store I hadn't been in before. They didn't have a lot of stuff, but what was sitting in the case right on top, primer number 2.
Yeah.
In like a 9.4 condition. I'm like, it's just cherry. And I'm like, how much? And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Just charge it. Just it up. I'm like, I don't even care. That's that's like an indie grail, right? I mean, it's so hard to find.
Yeah, you never see it.
Nice.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, like, I don't want to say that the opposite is the wrong way to do things, because take Andy, for example. He went to Baltimore with the specific intention of getting a first appearance of Punisher.
Yep.
And he took care of it the first day. He got his copy, and he was beaming. He was so excited.
Yeah.
And just walked around and had fun the rest of the weekend. Yeah. Just walked around and had fun the rest of the weekend, not worrying about what he needed to buy because he already got it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that was something that I'll always remember too, because I'm the one who spotted that comic and took a picture and texted it to him. So like I'm always linked with Andy now forever.
I'm sorry.
I'm never gonna forget. It was like a team effort, and that's fun. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, they're both from Michigan. They're beard bros. What do you expect?
Totally.
Yeah, during that convention.
Our club, don't try.
During that convention, I went to go see Aranzi Pazuzu, this band that was on my record label. Now they moved up to Nuclear Blast, which most of our bands we push them up. But like that was a rare occurrence in general, just seeing that band because they're from Europe and they barely tour. Or if they do play, it's like small tours and like big festivals. And so they played a small club there in Baltimore. Was it Baltimore? I think it was Baltimore. DC. Where were we? I'm trying to remember where I was. But yeah. One of the last cons we went to, they played. I like left one night to go to a show, and that was one of the last shows I went to because concerts are done now too. Just like comic book conventions. But I don't want to lie because a lot of stuff I buy is from eBay because my comic book store doesn't have them. Like for instance, like Charles Burns' Black Hole. My comic book store doesn't have that. Like the Chris Ware stuff that I have. Like I don't have that. Sid Field's screenplay, which is recommended by I think like Chris Claremont or I don't remember who else recommended it, but it's how to write stories and books, and that's what they die by was this. It's a lot. There's a lot of things that I buy on eBay a lot more so than an LCS because LCS doesn't have it. They just like their Marvel and DC and old back issues that just pile up, and you kind of see the future of like, I don't know, for me of storytelling, innovation, and what's important. I don't know. For me, I like to go for the more creative and rarer things than just kind of the same blah over and over.
What's up, Daymers?
Daymers, yeah, dude.
You're in for a hell of a surprise. There has been no shopping list, really.
Yeah, well, that's the other reason why, like, this is a joke, but I'm being mum about what I'm looking to buy because I don't need any more AOKs. And I know there's a couple people, TJ, who always like to kind of hear what we're looking for.
Yeah, right now, TJ's shopping for a dishwasher for me. Stop it.
Yeah. Love and Rockets #1.
Right. For me, like I think my most disappointing thing with Marvel and DC is how they put out their trades and hardcovers. It's just the same kind of bland style. Like I think my favorite publisher is Fantagraphics because they kind of go like full on of how the creator wants their book to be. I guess as an example, I think this one is by Jim Woodring. And now, sir, is this your missing gonad? But if you look at the paper, it's like all different color paper throughout the whole entire book. And I thought that was an interesting touch. They're all just kind of, you can kind of see there, like they just change colors. And this one is not by Fantagraphics, but they do have books like this where they have like the gold paper on the sides, just a lot of special details can be put in. And I wish they asked their creators of how they want their books to be published instead of just being, oh, hey, here's another kind of bland hardcover. And, I don't think a lot of collectors even know better. They just.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say that creators who work for Marvel and DC don't care about their work, because clearly they do.
They just don't get asked. And Marvel,
right. I think there's a difference in the artistry in a lot of smaller press stuff, because I'll say they care more about the comic as an art form than Marvel or DC does.
Agreed.
Clearly.
And it's more expensive to do that stuff. And Marvel has the money for it. And here you have a small publishing company that's been surviving for decades that does it better. And they're interested in individual stories. Like, I love Fantagraphic stuff. And they repress stuff that's even from like made in World War II, by like from a Chilean author who died because he was a revolutionary and got murdered in his backyard. You know what I mean? It's like things like that. You're like, holy crap! You learn the history by someone who's writing stuff they're putting out that is like long lost to the public. And people are like, oh, hey, did you buy like Hulk 181 or like, I'm like, I don't give a shit, dude. Like, you know what's going on out there? Like, do you have any idea what's happening out there, man? Like, but you hear the same stuff over and over again. It's like, God, man. How many keys do we need? How many things do we how many slabs do we need, man? Like, I don't know. It's just, if you're not innovating, what's the purpose of it? If you don't want to treat it like stocks, like, why? You can buy stocks. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just, I'm like Alec and Bear. I'm just kind of like almost done with the whole scene, but I there's things that I want to read and collect because they're special and they're interesting.
And that's why we still do it. And everybody collects a way that suits them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If someone out there is their favorite band's Nickelback, more power to you, man. That's great. And I'm not going to shame you for it. That's cool, man. But I'm saying, open your minds. There's way cooler stuff out there, and just dive in, please. Keep an open mind to what's out there.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask another question, and hopefully it won't take as long as this last one.
An hour and 7 minutes in.
Yeah, and we literally got through. We got through a bevy of topics off of just one specific question. All right.
What's your favorite Nickelback song?
Yeah, Rockstar. And
classic Spider-Man soundtrack.
What was what got you into comics to begin with? And we'll start with Bear this time, because I'm sure if we start with Jason, it'll take at least another half an hour for that one.
Yeah, sorry.
What got me into comics to begin with?
Yeah.
I was collecting baseball cards. I was probably 11 or 12.
Saw that was a dying market.
And I looked over at my little brother, who was born cooler than me, and he was collecting comic books. And I was like, that must be the thing I should collect, because you can read them too. So he was already collecting them, and I knew that it would piss him off if I started collecting them too. So I went ahead and did that.
So you did it out of spite.
Then everything right. I made a friend in junior high who was super, super into comics, and we just spent all our time in class just drawing muscly superheroes and pissing off our French teacher. So I mean that's how it all started, and then of course classic. Got to high school, discovered other things in life, and came back to it recently. How's that for a nice, succinct answer?
When did you graduate from high school?
97. God, you made me say it out loud.
98.
Yeah, so like I had, it was funny. Like my dad would go to the comic book store when I was losing interest, when I was discovering girls and other things in high school. My dad would just go pick up my pull list for me and be like, "Hey, you got a new Wolverine comic?" And I think it was like 95 or so that I probably stopped.
Like, shut up, Dad.
Yeah, like, don't say that in front of my friends.
The funny thing for me is that while I was very interested in girls in high school, they were not interested in me, so I stuck with the comics.
Same, but I dreamed.
My favorite part of tonight's show was the comment from Matt that I can't bring up on the right here, but it's in the chat. I had to approve the fact that he said girls.
What?
Apparently that's a swear word, or whatever, according to YouTube.
Like that one time we were doing a live stream, and I guess you can't type the number 88 into it.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Oh,
no.
Or apparently the bagel emoji.
Really?
Yeah, that got flagged. I tried to.
I think you guys just found some material for your next show.
Bagel. Just eating bagels and
Eat
drop
bagels,
those bagel emojis in the chat, people.
yeah. I got banned from Facebook today for 24 hours because I shared a meme. And I even posted myself. It wasn't my own creation. I shared it on one of my meme pages, and I got flagged. It charged me for it.
Oh my God.
So yeah, for 24 hours, and didn't even think it was that offensive. Oh, you did it! Bagel emoji.
Bagel.
Oh, bye, JP.
But Matt's got blocked. Hang on.
His bagel emoji did?
Yeah, I think they've got something against Matt.
Oh.
J Hood's got a peach.
Oh, hello.
Anyway, down to you, Alec. What got you into comics?
So my very first video that I put out on YouTube, which I encourage everyone not to watch because it's super awkward. Actually went over this. Yeah, which are like smooth as silk. Like I've become a real pro at this. But it went over this
How to
topic.
pick up girls. Is that what the video is called?
Yeah, by someone who's really bad at it.
How to build a rocket ship out of home appliances.
Yeah. But it was
trashy women. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, Alex.
It came from my dad, who was a comic fan when he was a kid, and in one of those classic cases of his mom threw all his comics out when he went to college or school or whatever. But he said he had like a lot of early Conan stuff. He had a lot of early Spider-Man stuff. So who knows how much that would have been worth nowadays. But be that as it may, he I don't want to say like forced them upon me, but I remember like him buying me comics, like when we would go out or whatever. And there was, specific issues of Fantastic Four and Detective Comics that I still have that were like the first comics I remember ever having, and just reading the hell out of them over and over and over again and thinking they were so cool. And so once I started getting like an allowance or like doing, working odd jobs around the neighborhood or whatever and getting a little bit of pocket money, that's what I wanted to go buy. And, but when I was a kid, I was always buying stuff off a newsstand, and then I found my first comic shop, and then I was like, oh, I see what's happening now. And that just like, I went headfirst into it.
Nice. How about you, Jason?
Me, growing up, I didn't have much of a dad, but my dad's best, he died when I was young. He was buried on my birthday, extra sad. but like his best friends had a son because he saw me and wanted a kid, and so he had one there soon thereafter, and we're like a year or two apart, so we're just like best friend playmates all the time growing up. So especially after my dad died, like he kind of took me in his zone, and I was just hanging out with him, and he had a huge comic collection, and I remember like just spreading out so many comics of Spider-Man and like Wolverine and Hulk, and I remember flipping through Hulk 181s, like just one Hulk 181, and key issues I can imagine, that I've fingerprinted and then folded and stuff, and it was, I guess he was a big comic book collector since he was a young kid. He went to Vietnam, and his mom thought he died in Vietnam and threw away all his comics. And so when he came home, she was like, I thought you were dead and I threw your stuff away. And he's like, no, he had like, like early, first appearance of Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, like all that stuff. He had all that stuff. And he definitely had all the Silver Age, and Golden Age like stuff too as well. At least Silver Age stuff I saw for sure. But yeah, so that's where my love of comics started. But my main things when I was young was I loved music, and comics. And then when I, kept up with the music stuff, and then after playing like bands and stuff and working for different record labels, I kind of just lost my love for music. I got really tired of this certain stuff and jaded with that stuff, and I just wanted nothing to do with it really. And so I was like, well, what that used to be like my main go-to, it's like music has saved my life so many times in the past. I'm at that point where I don't need anything anymore to save my life, but don't think I'm like that. But it's like, I know in the past, like music was there for me when no one else was. And so a little side rant, when I package records today and send them off, I feel like I'm sending a Bible to someone. Like that could be their saving grace, So I feel like I that's kind of why I continue to do this. Is like, I knew music was there for me, so I want to ship that to someone else and make sure it's like not creased and perfect for them. But
not something you hear about black metal very often.
Right. But you'd be surprised
the
by
black
the
metal
fan.
community is very supportive.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It's not the 80s anymore.
Right. But so I had to think, like, what used to make me happy was like music and comics. I was like, well, what's happening in comics? So let me see what's happening in comics. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. Comics Explained got me caught up to what was happening in the stories and understanding characters and things like that. And then I saw the other sub channels, and I started reading comics and going to my LCS and buying stuff. And I was like, okay, now I understand what's going on and who these characters are. And this is a lot of fun and interesting. And oh wow, this is happening. This is a fun like drama soap story kind of happening, thing. It's great. And I was super into it. And so I was like, yeah, let me start. I had no one to talk to comic books with because none of my friends in like, in my area like comic books, And so I was like, well, let me find like-minded people. And I eventually found like, the Comic Core and Alec and Bear and John Comics and Kids and a bunch of other people. And, you, Jimmy, people like-minded who just like reading comics. And it's been a fun journey. And it's been cool, man. Yeah, there you go, TJ. Yeah, music has saved my life.
Absolutely.
At the time,
back when I had a Facebook, I remember distinctly posting one day, "Heavy metal saved my life," because I was closing the store I was working at the time, and I was just listening to headphones, and some Pantera came on, which is, I know, a funny thing to say because that guy's kind of a scumbag,
Mhm.
but it's the lead singer.
Yeah.
Oh.
But like, I don't necessarily mean that literally. Like I was never on the verge of anything drastic, but like it got me through junior high for sure. Like Slayer, Pantera, like all those like early thrash bands, like that helped me like get through times when like I was not having a good time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with comics for sure.
Right. Yeah. For me, like at that point in my life when I was like done with music, is I just got done playing in a band that I thought were my best friends, and they're like, yeah, like we don't want anything to, I was like, really? Like, okay. After I spent like all this money on the band, bought all the merch, bought all the designs, and like everything. It's like, okay. And now that band has gone nowhere. It's like, okay, guys, like cool, nice knowing you. But I was like very jaded, so I was like, well, what used to make me happy? Because I'm tired of music and I don't even want to hear it. And so I was like, yeah, comics. And so I was like, started the channel to talk about comics with somebody, but I wanted my own like shtick thing. I was like, what? I don't want to explain comics or do a review of comics because like there's so many channels that already do that. So I started my channel started making parodies of comics where I was making memes already. So I would Photoshop out the dialogue of comics and put in my own story. And then, there's a copyright with music. So I'd make up my own songs, original songs for the videos. So each video took like 2 weeks to a month to do per video, just time, like every day trying to put out this parody of a comic. I think to this day I have like 3 or 4 Comics Misexplained videos. They're my most viewed videos on my channel. But then after that, after I met people that were into comics, they were showing their comic book hauls and things they bought. And I was a new reader, so I was buying up like fat stacks, like that big, spending like $200 like every week just on like stupid bullshit comics that aren't worth anything. So I have like so many comics upstairs, like that are just wasting space in short boxes that aren't worth anything, but it was just stories I wanted to read, and
I get the same. I got 80s books coming out my ear
God.
because I wonder because I wanted to read them because, like, nobody was making trades of that crap. It was like, but it was like an ongoing, saga of this, Legion of Superheroes or whatever, in different iterations. I'm like, I wanted to read this stuff. So yeah, I was, picking them up for 50 cents a piece or a quarter a piece or whatever. But yeah, I mean, they're still interesting to read, but yeah, they take a lot of space.
Yeah, I've never
to read them.
Yeah, I've never felt badly about like getting pennies on the dollar back for books that I've read and enjoyed, because like I paid to read them and enjoy them.
Exactly.
So like when I sold like my whole run of like the Jeff Johns Green Lantern, I didn't get any money for that. Not nearly what I paid for them, because I bought them all off the shelf, but I read them and enjoyed them. So like, what do I care that I?
Yeah, I'm sorry, TJ.
Guilty as charged there. I mean, what can we say to that?
Yeah, I have no excuse.
Move along.
Thunderhouse Design brings out a Husker Du from SST Records. I was just thinking, like, back in my prior job at Get Hip Recordings, we had like Henry Rollins, who's a big part of Black Flag and SST Records, and also Ian McKay from Discord, and Minor Threat and Fugazi. They would order records from us like constantly as well, just as fans of wanting to buy music from the label or records that we put out through our distribution. And so like I do have their addresses somewhere in my phone. Just like when someone's like, whenever like bigger musicians like you almost like worshipped, growing up, you're just like, damn, like I have their address right here. Like, let me take a screenshot real quick, and like, I don't know. It's so funny with like when worlds collide like that. But
I think it's interesting the connection between music and comics, because it's all just storytelling,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a pace to storytelling as well that I think a lot of musicians and people who transfer from that stuff were involved with that understand. They feel that the rhythm of storytelling.
It's just two different ways of telling stories. And I will say that the death of my interest in comics as a teenager was when I got my first guitar, and it was just like, oh.
Do you still have your first guitar?
What's that?
You still have your first guitar?
I do, yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
It was a Stratocaster. My uncle bought it for me. He was he helped us pick it out. He didn't buy it for me, but he was a big Fender Strat guy. He's a big blues player.
I did too.
He like made his living that way, just playing in bands.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that was my stop to my first collecting of comics was I got into music. I started playing guitar. I mean, I needed to find something I could put more of my attention into, but like I had a challenging childhood, but yeah, music really kind of pulled me up out of that, and I had other friends that were playing, but yeah, I mean, I've even sold comics. I sold off my Witchblade, Darkness, Preacher, and Spawns to buy a bass amp. I just joined a new band, so
what was the bass amp you got?
SWR 350.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, dude, I wish I had my first guitar. My first guitar was an acoustic, but the neck broke. And I was super bummed. There's like no way to fix it. My custom
bass, I broke the truss rod on it, and sadly, the shop that built the guitar was wiped off the planet in the forest fires last year.
Oh wow!
So I'm gonna have to go get like a Warmoth or something like that, or some aftermarket neck to put on it. And it's really kind of disturbing. Or find some local luthier to build a neck for me.
You want to hear a horror story? In college, my band was playing. Our biggest show that we ever played is at this place called the Blind Pig in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And our lead singer, our lead guitarist went a little bit crazy during like the last song. He was playing a Gibson SG, really nice one too. And like somehow his guitar just ended up on the ground, and he was just, doing rock star shit at the end of the show. And our lead singer, who was a 300-pound guy, took a step backward right onto that guitar. Snap. Just.
Did he crush his ankle like a bear trap? Like the strings just retracted and like.
ugly moment that we still talk about to this day. Like,
oh man,
I'll never forget this. I think they're from Sweden. It's a band called Dungen, spelled Dungen. and I saw them in Boston at one point, and towards the end of the show, the lead singer was just like getting hyped, and I don't know what made him do this, but he threw his guitar into the crowd.
Oh,
And
no.
some guy caught it, luckily. But like as soon as the lights went up, like their tour manager was over to that guy with like a stack of merch, and he's like, "I need that guitar back."
Oh man,
Pretty cool. Blind Pigs, where you saw Bullet Mold in concert.
oh sweet.
Blind Pigs a big place though.
Yeah, I think they're struggling. I think
Everybody.
they might go out of business, which is kind of sad.
Obviously, it's not a great time for music.
I used to walk from my dorm room a mile and a half as soon as I was of age to get into that place, because I was a young freshman. I think you had to be 19 or 20 to get in there, and I would walk just to go to shows there. And then to be able to play there at one point was pretty amazing.
Yeah, my biggest obstacle when it comes to music nowadays is technology. All I do is use my voice memo section or like record, because I used to use voice memo and just record song ideas. Then when I listen back to them, like, how did I play that? And so now I just like self-record this video of what I play, even though it doesn't sound great, but like, you know, I can see what I'm playing.
No, that's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, everybody like tape recorder and just click down and start jamming out. Like, and yeah, like, how in the hell did I hit that chord in the first place?
Yeah, I really need to take the time and like buy and learn like actual audio recording, you know, equipment and stuff. You know, I just like even when I was a kid, like my mom had a piano. And I would just mess around with stuff as a little kid, like 5 years old or something like that. And of course, I didn't know tablature existed, but I was trying to remember like song ideas back then, and I didn't have any like audio equipment. So I made up my own tablature where I knew the alphabet. So I wrote like A through Z and just wrote like high to low of like what the notes were, you know, so you have like a long range of like up and down of what the notes were reaching. So that was my early songwriting days. But like now it's like I really need to learn how to do stuff, because I constantly am bombarded with these music ideas and stuff all the time. And I just don't know how to like record them down. I use like GarageBand now, which is like pretty simple to use, but it's still not good enough of how I want it to be.
Thank you, Thunderhouse, and he's been on like every show too.
That's awesome.
So yeah, thank you very much.
I remember pre-internet when it was so exciting to get the latest issue of Guitar World, so you could learn to play Nirvana songs.
Yes, that's
Guitar World, Guitar Player, Guitar for the Practicing Musician was probably my favorite, but yeah. And
that is why I used my Guitar World for the tablature only. This week we have 4 songs tablatured. You know, like that's it. Like it's like,
I hate this song, but I'm still gonna learn it because it's all I have.
One song.
Yeah. Guitar World was great because you get like lessons in there. Like they'd hit like a master musicians, and like they'd be giving lessons on like, you know, like trills and other, you know, other kind of shit. You know, they would like precede the section where they would just, you know, tablature out all the songs. But yeah, I do miss that. My favorite guitar magazine all time was Guitar Aficionado. And when that thing went, I was like, where's the new issue? Like, what the hell is going on? And like, I had no idea. You know, they folded. I was like, oh, so crushed. It was just such a great magazine, you know, because it was about like people who collected like, you know, old guitars and interesting guitars and stuff like that. And they had food and music and clothing and, you know, travel. And it was like, that was me, right? I mean, that's my whole channel is about, you know, except the comics added on top.
Now you're carrying the torch for Guitar Aficionado.
I am. Somebody's got to, you know. I mean, I'm getting into more content, right? Like I don't know if you guys have seen this, but on CNN there's a show from Stanley Tucci called Searching for Italy, and he goes to like all the different regions in Italy, and like they talk about the food and the culture and the history and everything, and it's like all these dishes that they make of like Italian food from the different regions, and I'm going to start like doing videos of me trying to cook it up and not fuck it up entirely, and, you know, serve it up to my family.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, my favorite like music magazine is probably Decibel magazine.
Decibel, yeah, because all the gear stuff they would do.
Well, they also have like flexi discs with the subscription, so it's like little like only songs you can get that you can listen to is on this little plastic like vinyl thing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. It's like a vinyl record that you play, but
it's like an ultra thin 45.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, flexi discs are cool, and they're making like a small comeback in certain small areas. But yeah, I love Decibel Magazine, and they're pretty broad with their stuff. But when you brought up Guitar Aficionado, and you said, like, I on Facebook, I try to find certain groups like that to meet that kind of need as well. And for a while, I was looking at just Japan-made guitars, and their American versions of things. That's a fun group. And then there's I want to say like a semantics group, of I guess sound vibrations and its effect on physical matter. So like it makes certain patterns and waves and stuff.
Waveforms.
That's pretty fun. You can see certain
science of audio.
Yeah. Semantics is pretty cool. It's right away, being like a metalhead, I was like, I know there's good vibrations to make a certain pattern, I think it's 100, 140 or 170 megahertz or whatever. I was like, is there an opposite where it can make your ears bleed? You have a warning label on the album. It's like, if you listen to this, you might hurt yourself.
Wait, you're a bass player, right, Jason?
Yeah, I play bass and
all right, so everybody's always searching for the brown note, right?
Right. I always say it's the band called Floor or Torch. Now they evolved into the band called Torch, but they have the bomb note. And what that is how that started was they have a bass, but the top string, the low string, is a broken string tuned, and so it just has this massive heavy low end sound. It just rattles your brain, and I got to do that once on a show where I was playing and it broke. And my two were tuned similarly, so I just down tuned my second string, but I kept the one broken string as my bomb string, and it was just low end. Every now and then, whenever I wanted to hit it, was awesome. It worked perfectly for the whole show. But
was it on a 5-string?
No, it was a 4-string. Yeah,
just a 4-string. Oh, crazy!
Jason, you're the Derek Smalls of this show.
Nice. So I want to transition back to something just a touch before we close the gap, and ask you this. So when we get cons back, and I know that everybody here is a big fan of conventions for a multitude of reasons, right? And I think mostly you would all agree it's the camaraderie, right? It's the gathering at this point, right? Which is something that I really treasure now because it's not something I had before last year. I usually went to shows by myself, or I'd run into people that I knew there, but it wasn't intentional. What's the first show you guys want to go to, right? Let's say, everything's back wide open and everything's in full swing. What's your favorite show? We'll start with Alec.
Baltimore has always kind of been my favorite show just because of the, I guess the way the show is run. It's very focused on the comic fan rather than the entertainment side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I know some other shows like that too, but that's the one that I've been to a few times that really has that kind of love of comics, and you feel it in the building, and you feel it in how things are set up and the guests they invite and whatever. So I would love to get back there. Obviously MegaCon, because I can practically walk to the convention center in Orlando from where I live. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's like a 10-minute drive. So I went to MegaCon right before I moved down here, 2 months before I moved down here in May of 2019. And had a blast, and I was really looking forward to 2020, and then we all know what happened. So but I'd say those two are going to be my kind of the first ones I eye, just for both convenience and enjoyment. I've never been to C2E2. I'd love to do that. San Diego is just not my I would like to go, I guess, just because it's San Diego, but it's not for me. It's too big and scary.
I went there once, and it was packed to the gills. It really was. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot that has to do with entertainment that's specific to that show. And it's people keep saying, oh, we need to move to a different location because, it's gotten too big for the convention center. And my comment on that was no, move the portion that's too big for it out of the convention center, and let us have back what we had before. I mean, keep it close by or keep it in the downtown area or something like that. But there's a lot to be said for that, because if you haven't been to San Diego, the convention center sits directly on the water, and then like across the street is the gas lamp district, which is just like this really cool little downtown area with just shops and bistros and bars and stuff like that. So you get all the guys, going to the hotels and everything, the creators and stuff, like they're in the hotels and they're just scattered around all the hotels and bars in the area. So you never know who you're going to run into when you're down there. And it's a really good time. But C2E2 is definitely a lot of fun. I haven't been to any of the other East Coast shows, and I'm really interested in MegaCon and the one in I want to say it's in North Carolina.
Heroes Con.
I hear is a great buyer.
I'd love to go there. I hear it's really good too.
Yeah. So that would be good. Bear, how about you? What do you want to see? What do you want to do?
Well, C2E2 will always be probably my favorite convention, just because I've gone 3 times and I've had a really good time every time, especially this last one. By the way, watch the last con on Bear Island Comics. It shouldn't be hard to find.
Absolutely. Please watch that. It's so much
fun. Like C2E2 will always have a really special place in my heart, but there's a couple of sort of unfinished business cons that I missed out on this past year. One of them being Motor City Comic Con, where Comic Man Andy and TJ, we were all going to sort of meet up there and we were going to break bread and, just have a great time. And my house is near it. So that was going to be a lot of fun. And I'm still super bummed about that. That was going to be this past spring. And, like Alex said, we all know what happened. And then another one that I was hoping to go to was New York Comic Con. Kavi has assured me that I will be able to crash on his couch if that happens, and he's still in New York.
Right, he's going to be closer to us.
Yeah, like I was really looking forward to doing that in October, but that wasn't even close to happening. So those two are kind of like unfinished business, but it kind of sounds like C2E2. They're going to do it in December, right? Like that might be the first one I have a chance to go to after getting vaccinated. So I mean, I don't know. It's all up in the air, but man, I just can't wait to get back to cons. It's what my comic life revolves around.
Even like when I used to live in Massachusetts, about every 6 weeks there was just like a little dealer show at this Elks Lodge or whatever it was, Mason's Temple. I don't remember what it was exactly. Basically an Elks Lodge. And I went every 6 weeks, and it was a blast. Like even if I didn't buy anything, I still like just going around looking to see what people had, and it was like $1 to get in, and like even something like that I would kill for right now.
You're not seeing that down in Orlando area?
They're starting to open up a little bit, but I'm not comfortable going to a bunch of things with a bunch of sweaty dudes looking through comics next to me, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, so we've been really pumping up the Huntsville Comic Con, right? And there's a lot of conversation on that about the health and safety and space and that kind of thing. And like I've been to a couple of small shows up around here, like microcons, just like stuff that's like at convention rooms, attached to a bowling alley or a hotel. What's that?
And like a Knights of Columbus Hall or something, And
I was talking to somebody that I do work with, about like what would be a good idea to, just to put together like a comic swap kind of thing, low number of vendors, just like a 1-day show or something in our area. Cause like every one of those shows that I've gone to had been up in Milwaukee area or Kenosha. It's just over the border in Wisconsin. There's nothing happening around here. And like in the entire, like 2-county region, there's 2 stores. Right, so we're talking like the entire northern portion of the Chicagoland area. There's 2 stores, and they're
That's crazy.
And they're like 10 minutes from each other.
Wow.
Yeah. So and I mean, one of them is my buddy's LCS, and the other one's a competitor. But it's like, like we need more than that, right? Like we need, I need fresh pools to dive into,
Yeah.
And a lot of other people do as well. And I've got plenty of books to sell. So yeah, we've been trying to look at putting together like a little comic swap or something like that we can just get people interested in locally, and just make sure it's safe, make sure that it's well prepared, and everybody's staying, they're 6 feet or so away, and masking up and that kind of stuff. Just
where I lived in Massachusetts, within an hour's drive, there was probably 15 to 20 shops.
Yeah, I missed that up here. It's like all of them went out of business, and before the shutdown too.
Yeah,
there's probably 3 or 4 good ones I know in Pittsburgh, and they're really spread apart.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, San Diego's just too big. I mean, there's just too many people. Shows like that are going to take a lot longer.
Yeah, MegaCon is supposed to be happening I forget when it's supposed to happen, this summer or this fall or something. But there's still like reduced capacity. But I can't see San Diego wanting to do a reduced capacity because it's just so popular already.
Yeah.
And I can tell you though, I like those little microcons because you can, especially if you have your own booth, like you can, trade with other vendors and stuff like that, and sell and make some cash for other books or whatever. But yeah, it's usually a lot of fun.
Having a small booth can really change like your life. Like as the Comic Core crew, we rented out a booth at Baltimore Comic Con one time. This one year, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. We partnered with New Dimension Comics. They're from Pittsburgh, and so we shared a booth there. So we had some comics that you could flip through and buy, but then also we did our like show kind of thing there, right, as well. And then we started, going around asking comic creators or whatever who was there if they want to do an interview or something, and they'd agree to this stuff or not, and then eventually. Mark Wade agreed to do an interview, and he, is on the board of the Heroes Initiative, which is a charity-based thing for comic, workers. If you need help with your medical bills or whatnot, they're there for you. But I think that the thing is like the caveat is you have to be working as a comic professional for at least 5 years, I think. But nonetheless, like he's like, these guys are pretty cool. Like you guys, whoever. I know they're bothering a lot of people and asking people they want to do interviews, but I give them a thumbs up. And meanwhile, you have previews that are there. They have like the giant, huge stage and stuff, and like they're doing some interviews here and there. But like, we started like busting them out like the whole entire day. We're just taking turns interviewing like a lot of creatives and stuff, and that really took a huge turn. Where like then the Hero Initiative wanted to do like a partnership, like with us and help them out, and then eventually that led to us doing the Baltimore Comic-Con online. Like we went to being a fan of Baltimore Comic-Con, one of our favorite con conventions, to running it, like online. But that's what renting a small booth can do for you. It could change like so much. It could potentially change your life. But yeah, I guess mine, like Alec, is my favorite one. I'm looking forward to is probably Baltimore Comic-Con. Just because it has a name cachet of creators, but you don't have the long lines like New York City Comic Con. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do love the spectacle though of New York Comic Con, and that is up. Like I've been twice now, 3 times.
As much as I love C2E2, San Diego is epic.
Always wanted to do San Diego. I did C2E2 twice. I always want to do San Diego.
Yeah, it's just big. Right, like everything there is just like there's so much going on. Like it blows your mind how much is actually happening during that show.
Yeah, I get stressed out sometimes, even at smaller shows, where I feel like I'm missing out on something. If like there's a panel going on that I missed, or like there's an artist who like I didn't realize was there. So something like San Diego, I think would just like just destroy my anxiety. I would just be frozen in fear of missing everything, so I just wouldn't do anything.
I'm a big panel guy, so like I will like avoid signing and getting things signed to see panels to get like news first. You know what I mean? Like I love going to panels and hear what people have to say. Like I got to see Frank Miller at New York Comic Con. Like he did like an interview there with like I think Jeff Johns was there. I think Bendis was there as well. You know, it was really some unique experiences, and you get there telling like it just made it in just the right time, you know, and they shut off the door, you know, they dim the lights. It's so
Right.
cool. I love going to panels, man. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most is like Baltimore Comic Con, C2E2, and New York Comic Con. And I think once they're all okay, I'm probably going to make an effort to go to like all of them. You know what I mean? If I feel comfortable enough with what's going on. Like, I guess today it was revealed that like there's no regulations on Texas. So guarantee those big conventions are going to have people there from Texas. So I don't know. I probably won't feel safe for the first year or two. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, those big shows are definitely difficult to really kind of get into.
Big Will brings up Dragon Con. That's like a big cosplay con, which is interesting. I would totally go to Dragon Con just to see some cool cosplay. Even though I don't really participate in that, but like I do appreciate like the art of it. That's really neat.
That's true. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. Well, I'll tell you what. We're gonna wrap this up. I would ask what each of you has going on your channels, but I think we've already covered that.
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know.
TJ really covered that, but
I've been playing my
PS5,
so you might catch some PS5 live videos. I don't know, and hang out with me while I play PlayStation 5. I don't know.
But no, seriously though, I mean, Bear, anything planned? Anything upcoming that we should be on the lookout for?
I'm just sitting here pushing the envelope of how long one can wait to do a 2020 hunt list look back video. It's all written, it's ready to go. I've got the pile of books that I was able to acquire, and I just have to sit down and do it. So it's just tough because like I spend all day in front of my damn computer, and I don't want to do more of that.
When did we get Last Con released? That was what?
October.
October? So
yeah.
We should expect somewhere around there for your 2020 look back?
Yep.
I'd say like it should be like every 6 months.
Every 6 months, yeah. It's germinating on it.
Yep.
How about you, Alec? Do you have something planned to do?
Well,
I know we all miss your creator spotlights.
Yeah,
I'd love to see those again.
I know TJ's always getting on me about doing more of those, but
cool.
Much like Jason's Misexplained videos, they take a lot of work, and I'm just lazy.
You know what I dug was when you collaborated with Reggie and did that like 2-part series. To be honest with you, I can't even really remember what it was on, but I just remember like the video quality of your segment of it where you're like pointing to stuff that it shows up.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, that's cool.
It was rarity versus scarcity.
That's right. Which is, I think, probably something you guys could bring back out.
Revisit. But right now,
do it live because you're lazy.
Every other week on my channel, I've got book club, and then every other week besides that is on John's Comics with Kids channel. Sunday nights, sometimes Jason and I and some other guys do D&D. But that's about to wrap up. We're not doing it this Sunday because John hasn't. He can't make it, so he's got to throw that monkey wrench in us. But they're coming to the end. So if you want to see the end of a D&D campaign without watching the rest of it, and you haven't been keeping up, come join us in a couple weeks. But
as I understand it, the reason it's taken so long is because you've been so unsuccessful at killing them off.
I have been very unsuccessful at killing them off. I've managed to kill one of them, but that was kind of a story point that Big Will and I kind of came up with together.
Yeah, I feel like Alec's been showing us mercy like this whole entire time. And I'm grateful for every single merciful second.
I mean, I don't want to get into a whole D&D conversation as we're trying to wrap things up, but like I keep telling the guys, like my intention is not to kill them. My intention is to make it challenging for them and make it fun. Like I don't gain anything by killing all of them. Like then the game's over and I don't get to have fun either by DMing.
Mm-hmm.
True.
But I just want the threat of them getting killed.
I do want to say, if you're going to watch one episode of our D&D on White Whale's channel, check out the Christmas episode. It's a one-off episode, one and done. It was so fun.
It's a very special episode.
it's a great episode. So yeah, you just got to watch that one episode. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Very fun.
Speaking of John Ruins Everything, Bearded Comic Bro said John Ruins Everything. This has been such a fun discussion tonight. You have to wonder
What's the problem with the Wednesday show?
what's the problem. I don't think it's Andy because he's just there to laugh at us.
He just snickers and combs his beard.
Yeah.
Tells the dad jokes.
And that's his role.
Yeah, dad jokes.
And beard combing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, Jason, you're up.
Yeah, man. I've been thinking of playing around with making another Comics Misexplained video, but I just know it takes time. I'm trying to plan ahead, like do certain make videos way ahead of time, like do a Christmas special one, maybe a Halloween one. I have this old like Deadpool comic that was like a Christmas thing where I think he kills Santa. I kind of have like all those like pictures and frames already saved to my iPad like 2 years ago. I just never got around to doing that. So I don't know. I might do a special like that. I am streaming PlayStation 5 stuff semi recently. I am waiting for like to get a hold of the headset because it has a better microphone, and that is impossible to find. But I do have my camera, so I could do it, but it sounds bad through the mic from the PlayStation 4 mic. And I guess my handle on PlayStation is PartyPug666, and I was thinking of just aiming the camera at my pug on my lap, so you can just see a pug's face the whole time, and not my stupid face. So that'd be a plus. But yeah, so I might stream more games, and you can catch me mostly on the Comic Core on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, all three of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Catch all these guys Wednesday, tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow
10
at 10 Eastern.
Yep.
For the greatest comic show ever. And then come back here on Saturday, and we'll have the Lords of the Long Box.
Nice.
Right here for What Do You Hunt? I'm Jimmy the
Tebow.
Aficionado, and
Jimmy, what's my first name?
Adam.
Very good.
We were talking about that earlier because I was having so much trouble last week remembering his first name, and I blame John.
At
And
the end of last episode, he goes, "We'll have Jason from Comics Misexplained, Alec from Whitewell Comics, and
Bear.
Bear Island." Damn it, I can't remember his name. Way too much screwball.
oh, good man, that shit's delicious."
Thank you, TJ. And thank you, everybody else. Have a great night.
Bye.